with us to to share information about the FAFSA and the CSS profile for our families. Before we begin, I want to just quickly, I'm Diana Blitz, for those of you whose parents I do not know, and Wendy Lubick is here, and Debbie Kaufman is here, and Magda Moores is here. We are the 4 people who constitute the College Lady. So Jeff has been an educational consultant since 2007-ish. He's based in LA and in Connecticut with students all over the world. He presents at national conferences, community events on topics related to college admission and affordability quite frequently. He is the go-to person for all questions related to financial aid, and we are very fortunate that each year he agrees to meet with the parents of our current seniors. We will now start the recording, and we will not record the Q&A. So please feel free to ask any question. There's nothing that you should feel embarrassed about. Please do not hesitate to ask questions in the chat, and Jeff will address them at the end of his presentation.
I guess is that me?
Mm-hmm. You're on.
All right, Diana, thank you. Wendy, Magda, Debbie, thank you. It's a treat every year for me to come to the College Lady webinar and talk to your family. So thank you so much for having me. My presentation, it's financial aid and college affordability can be such a complicated, opaque area that it's really impossible to reduce everything down to 30 or 40 minutes. So I did my best to kind of organize it in a way that would give you the most important stuff, but there will be plenty that I don't address. As I'm talking, the presentation will be about 35, 40 minutes, I think, and we hope to leave 15, 20, 25 minutes for Q&A afterward. So jot down your questions as I'm talking, put them in the chat, and I will do my best to get to all of them at the end. So why don't we get started? And just Diana, would you confirm for me that I'm sharing my screen properly?
Yep. It's great.
Okay. All right. So it's finding affordable financial aid, finding affordable colleges for your student. But we're going to be talking about more than just finding colleges. You'll know a lot more in 40 minutes than you do right now about the whole process. And just you can look at this quickly. This is a general overview of what I'm going to be talking about tonight. I'm not going to read this off now. You guys are capable of reading yourselves. But as you see, we're going to be covering quite a bit, nothing in too much depth, just so we can get to all of these things. And toward the end of the presentation, I will be sharing an actual a redacted financial aid award, and we'll spend a few minutes talking about how to actually read a financial aid award, how to interpret it, because it can be difficult. So I like to kind of start with the bad news and then share the good news. You're all pretty familiar with the bad news, and that's sticker price. We may be one of the best higher ed systems in the world, at least up to this point, but we are certainly the most expensive. And this is a very small sample of the range of 4-year private institutions. These are the sticker prices, and I'll get in a moment to explaining what that includes, but it's essentially the entire annual cost of attendance. And you'll see that, and these are last year's numbers. So by the time your kids are applying, these numbers will be history. They'll be higher than this. But many schools, many of the most selective schools are into the 90s, many other schools in the 70s and 80s, and a few like Elon and Drew in New Jersey and Howard in Washington, D.C. Are still in the $60,000 to $70,000 range. It's kind of a built-in discount for full pay families. They are not good with financial aid because they've already discounted their sticker price. Conversely, those schools, those highly selective schools in the 90s, they tend to be very good with financial aid. But we'll get into all of that in a moment. Here are some sticker prices for Publix around the country. And you'll see I have two columns, one for in-state residents and one for out-of-state residents. Um, Publix also tend to be pretty bad at financial aid generosity. Why? Because they aren't, most of them are not wealthy institutions, and they're already giving a lot of financial aid in the form of tuition discounts to their in-state residents. So it can be very pricey for out-of-state residents to go to an out-of-state public because there usually is not much financial aid that can bring that cost down. So sticker price is defined as the total annual cost of attendance, abbreviated as COA, cost of attendance, and it includes essentially everything that you will have to pay for your child to go to college for the year. Tuition, fees, room and board, books, personal expenses, even an approximation of how much um, traveling back and forth a couple of times a year to college may cost. Um, some of these are what's called direct charges, which you would have to, you as the parent would have to pay prior to each semester or each quarter, and that includes tuition fees, room and board. And then some of these are indirect costs. You're not billed for these by the college, but they're going to cost money. Books, personal expenses, and getting your child to and from college. So the COA fortunately includes all of that, direct and indirect costs. Um, so is there any good news for consumers of college of higher education? Yeah. Um, Most students are not paying the sticker price. And the most recent data that I can get a hold of is about 86% of students are paying less than the sticker price because they're either getting federal or institutional financial aid. So how do institutions discount that ridiculously high sticker price? And it's through need-based aid and merit aid. Um, Merit aid is strictly from the institution, or almost always from the institution. Need-based aid can be a combination of federal, state, and institutional grants. Um, the trick is figuring out which your family will qualify for. Most don't qualify for both. Families with demonstrated need qualify for need-based aid. Families without demonstrated need tend to be the first ones to get merit aid. Why? Because colleges need full pay families to help underwrite the financial aid that they're giving to other families. You are very valuable, and they have to entice you with money by discounting that high sticker price through the form of merit aid. So I'm going to talk about both of these tonight, starting with need-based aid, and then we'll move into merit aid. So who gets need-based aid? Anyone who can demonstrate financial need at the institution. What does financial need even mean? The simple formula: need equals the total cost of attendance, that sticker price that we talked about, minus SAI, the student aid index. That's what demonstrated need is at any particular college. The SAI, the student aid index, is the single number that when your child is complete, you and your child, but technically it's the student's form when they're completing the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. It's a federal form. When they complete that, and you complete the parent section of that, and you submit it, within 2 days, the student will get an email saying that their FAFSA has been processed, and here is a link to their FAFSA summary. And in that summary is a number, the student aid index, which is very roughly an approximation of what your family is expected to contribute towards college based on your income and assets and other demographic factors. That is the student aid index. It's not actually the amount you will have to pay. It's the starting point for what the financial aid office will determine your child will get in financial aid, and therefore what you will have to pay to make up the difference. So I think it's really important to figure out early in the process. When I say early, before you or your educational consultant is working on building the college list, it's really important. If you're someone who cannot comfortably afford the sticker price of college, then if the cost of college is a significant or overriding factor in where your child will enroll, then it's essential that you figure out where you are on the needs spectrum. Are you a family with moderate to substantial demonstrated need? Need equals cost of attendance of the particular college minus your SAI. Or are you a family with little or no demonstrated need um, uh, because your income and assets are fortunately high enough so that you won't qualify for need-based financial aid? So if you learn, and we'll get to in a moment how to learn early in the process, an approximation of what your SAI will be. But say you learn that it's 75,000 at a school that costs 80,000 COA, you learn your SAI is 75,000, your need is very small. 5,000 compared to the $80,000 price tag. Um, Even at a school that meets 100% of need, full need, this person's financial aid award might consist of approximately $5,000 if the school meets full need. That's your share of the 80 will then be 75,000. So that's not a lot of demonstrated need. On the other hand, if you learn that your SAI is 25,000, look at what the need is for that student at that college. It's 55,000. And if a school is meeting full need, 100% of need, and we will talk about how to find those schools. Then the financial aid award for this student will be approximately 55,000 a year. And then there's the folks in the middle. SAI of about 50,000 would leave about 30,000 of need, and that's not nothing, but it's not a great deal either. So I would call that moderate need. So as you can tell, it's important to know what is my SAI to know, will we qualify for any need-based aid? So where do you learn this? I think the best place to go to learn your SAI early in the process are net price calculators. By law, every college needs to have one on their website. I highly encourage you to make use of these. They are kind of simplified financial aid forms. They're asking you for your financial information, income, assets, other demographic information. And it will tell you, now it's not a predictor, but it will tell you approximately um, what that college will cost you, and how much financial aid your student would possibly receive from that college. Um, I so it's located on each college's website. I recommend running 5, 6, or 7 of these. The more you run and the more accurate your inputs, the better idea you're going to have of what these colleges may actually cost. I would say of the 5, 6, or 7 that you run, mix it up. Have few publics. If your child is applying to a variety of schools, have a few publics, have a few privates, have a few that are highly selective, have some that are less selective. Um, and then what you'll find is that you're going to get a wide variety of results. What I would do next, and by the way, save the results page of every net price calculator you run. It's really important that you keep track of this. You won't remember. And it may be something that actually enters into an appeal, a financial aid appeal, later on. So save the results page. Also, your educational consultant might want to look at it. It uh, uh, might help them develop the college list. So if these are the results, these 6 fictitious net price calculator results, I would get rid of the 2 outliers, the one that says your SAI is 75K and the one that says it's 23K, and what you're left kind of clusters in the middle. And if you do the average of those 4, this particular hypothetical case comes to an average of about 36K. The numbers don't have to be exact. You want to know generally where you are on the needs spectrum. Do you have high demonstrated need? Do you have little or no demonstrated need? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Now, what is 36K? High, low, or in the middle? Well, at a school with an $80,000 sticker price, like we were looking at before, I would call it high need. 80 minus 36 is 56, 44, I think, $44,000. That's a lot of need per year at a college. And again, if a college is meeting full need, and a lot of them do, a lot of them don't, but a lot of them do, you can get a financial aid award that approximates that difference. But you learn that your SAI is $36,000 and you're applying to an in-state public that has a sticker price, say, of 35,000. That same student has zero need at that school. You will not get financial aid from that school. So need is about not just what your SAI is, but also what the sticker price of the school is. Rule number 1, if you have moderate to substantial demonstrated need, you should be looking for schools that are generous with need-based aid. And I will get in a moment, I will get into what that means. Rule number 2, and we'll get to this soon as well. If you have little or no demonstrated need, that SAI at 75K or 80K or 90K, where you're going to have no need at most of the schools that your child is applying to. But if that price tag is impossible for you to pay anyhow, you have to be looking for schools that are generous with merit aid, because you're not going to get much of any need-based aid from those schools. Okay, and we'll get to merit aid. Which schools are generous with need-based aid? You have to first look at the percentage of need met for all undergraduates. What does that mean? When you look at the data, and I will share a resource with you at the end of the presentation, but when you look at the data, They will tell you the percent of need that is met for freshmen and the percent of need that is met for all undergraduates. Ignore the percent of need that is met for freshmen. Why? Because many schools do something called bait and switch. NYU, um, sorry, some schools are known for doing that. And so you want to know over 4 years, what is the average percent of need a school meets? And that average doesn't change drastically year to year. Um, uh, let's see, University of Virginia meets 100% of need year in, year out. It doesn't go from 100 to 80 to 50 to 100, year in, year out. They can't run their businesses if their customers don't know what to expect year to year. So that data tends to be very stable. So you want to look for a high number of percentage of need met for all undergraduates. I would recommend that number be 90% or more. And again, I'll introduce you at the end to a resource that I think you'll find helpful. About 50 schools meet 100% of need year in, year out. Maybe some fall down to 99, 98, 97, but they're right up there at 100%. And here's a sample. This is not the total list. Here's a sample of some of the schools that are meeting 100% of need. And as you can see, they're not all, I mean, yes, the Ivies do, but there are others on this list that have a significantly higher admit rate than the Ivies do. So you don't have to be a 1550 SAT straight A student to find schools that meet 100% of need. And here's a sample of the cross section of schools that don't meet 100% of need. Some are very close, USC, Case Western, Babson, and some are nowhere close at all. Fordham, Santa Clara, Texas Christian. The publics tend to be quite low. NYU that meets 100% of need for freshmen and not for later years. Um, so just be aware of, for those of you with moderate to substantial need, check out what the history of meeting need is at the schools that you're thinking about applying to. All right. How do you apply for, if you're one of those families that is likely to get need-based aid, and there may be reasons to submit the FAFSA and the other form, the CSS profile, even if you don't have demonstrated need, and we can get into that a little bit later. But if you are choosing to apply for need-based financial aid, every school will require the FAFSA, free application for federal student aid, which is now open, by the way, officially for students who will be enrolling in college in the fall of 2026. Make sure the FAFSA you're filling out is for the 2026-2027 school year. Otherwise, you're filling out the wrong year's FAFSA. The CSS profile, as it does every year, will open on October 1st, and about 170 schools, which tend to be the most selective and also tend to be private, but there are a few that are less selective and there are a few publics on it as well. The only way to learn which forms the schools require, there is no master list that I trust. You should go onto the website of every school your child is applying to, make a very simple spreadsheet for yourself, list all the schools, excuse me, list all the schools, list the forms they require, and list the deadline for the financial aid forms given the deadline, given the application round that your child is applying in. So if they're applying early decision, the deadline for the FAFSA and CSS profile may be November 1st. If they're applying regular decision, it could be as late as January, February, March. So, but since these forms are typically completed and submitted online, one time, listing all the colleges, you want to get your form in before the college with the earliest deadline. So if you're applying early action, early decision, make sure you know what that early deadline is and get your child should get their FAFSA in by that date and this CSS profile in by that date. Do not miss a financial aid deadline. That can really hurt you. All right, what to know about the FAFSA? It is the student's form. Um, And it's really true in this case. And this is how I recommend beginning and completing the FAFSA. The student needs to create their federal student aid ID before logging into the FAFSA, and the student should be the first one to log into the FAFSA, not the parent. The FSA ID can be gotten here, or simply do a Google search, create my FSA ID, and it'll take you right to this site. Your student needs to get that. The parent should not need to get their own. That's a new rule change. Um, Once the student has their FSA ID, by the way, they hold on to that for multiple years. They only have to do that one time. Then they can log into FAFSA and start filling out the form. The best way to do this is to have the student begin. It's not that complicated. You can look over their shoulder, but don't do it yourself. That will complicate matters. There's a certain point in the student section where the student is asked about their parents, their marital status, and it's just going by parent. It's just using the first name of the parent. So parents are not identified yet. This is the way the FAFSA determines if one or both parents need to be contributors. If the parents are married and filed jointly, only one of those parents needs to be a contributor because there's one set of tax returns. If the parents are married but file separately, there are two sets of tax returns. Both parents will need to be contributors. And the FAFSA will help the student figure that out. It'll walk them through it. If the parents are divorced or separated, then it asks a very interesting question. Which of your parents has provided more financial support to you, the student, in the year to date? That parent becomes the contributor on the FAFSA. The other parent is ignored. So it used to be the parent with whom the student lived more of the year, spent more time with. That's gone. It's now the parent who has contributed more financially to the student in the year to date. Okay, I think I've gone through all these bullet points already. Parents are separated or divorced. I've explained that. Now, some other facts about the FAFSA. It does not look at equity in the primary home. That is not considered an asset on the FAFSA. It is on the CSS profile. It does not ask if anyone other than the parents, such as grandparents, grandparent 529 savings accounts. The FAFSA does not ask if anyone other than the parent has contributed or will contribute to the student. Because if it did, and the CSS profile does, any money paid on behalf of the student is considered untaxed student income for the year they received it. So just be aware that it's great. This is a great change in the FAFSA in recent years, but the CSS profile is still asking, has anyone else, like a grandparent, contributed money on your behalf? The FAFSA and the CSS profile look at income tax returns from 2 years prior to the year your child is enrolling in college. So if they're a senior in high school now, they're enrolling in college in the fall of 2026. 2 years prior to that, 2024's tax returns. They're looking at income from 2024. If you're a junior in high school, they'll be looking at income from 2025, and income is the biggest driver of need eligibility. Assets, however, what you've got in the bank, what you've got invested, um, is at the moment you're filling out the form, since that's fungible and changes constantly. That's at the moment you're filling out the form. Retirement assets are excluded from both. So you can have, tens of millions in your retirement account, but that will not affect your child's eligibility for need-based aid. Okay, some things to know about the other form. It's used by about 170 undergraduate institutions. It is the student's form, but it's a complicated form. So usually in this case, the parents complete that right from the beginning. There's no FSA ID. It's not a federal form. It's easy for the parent to start. I mean, it's a difficult form, but it's not hard to begin it. And it's usually the parent that does it. Opens on October 1st. And again, the first deadlines may be as early as November 1st. If parents, and this is where it's different from the FAFSA, if parents are separated or divorced, the CSS profile wants to know everybody. They want to know both biological parents. They want to know the spouses of the biological parents, and they're going to be collecting those email addresses and sending those others their own CSS profile to complete. By the way, I forgot to say this about the FAFSA. When the FAFSA walks the student through which parent needs to be, or parents need to be the contributors, the student is then giving the first and last name and the email address. And at that point, the parent is invited by email from the FAFSA to log into their student's FAFSA and complete the parent section. There's kind of a firewall between the student section and the parent section. All right. Let's spend just a couple of minutes talking about financial aid awards. I know this is too small for you to read. I just wanted to show you the full page. Now we'll go through it section by section. This is from Tulane University several years ago, so the numbers are lower than they would be now. But at the top section, the total cost of attendance, we see a breakdown: tuition and fees, housing and meals, books. These are the costs before financial aid. This is total cost. And we see in that year, 2023-24, the total cost of Tulane was was $87,346. The section just below it, expected family contribution, we see very nicely broken out. Based on the FAFSA, the family contribution would be 40, like the SAI, what's now called SAI, would be 44,803. But based on the CSS profile, it's significantly lower. It's usually the other way around, but it depends. There are a lot of factors. In this case, the family had a lower expected family contribution from the CSS profile. Tulane uses the CSS profile, so they got institutional aid based on that lower amount than the FAFSA. Next section, we see this is now the scholarship and grant section. We see that, let's look at the box on the right under grants. So 0 in federal Pell Grants, but 38,000 in institutional grants, 0 in state grants, 0 in other kinds of grants. So a total of 38,000 a year in institutional grants. This student was lucky enough to also get merit aid on top of need-based aid. Tulane did not meet their full need, but wanted this student, and so they sweetened the deal by adding 14,000 more in merit aid. So it's not impossible to get both need and merit, but it's not typical. Don't plan on it. So we see they got a $14,000 scholarship from Tulane. Uh, now, so the net price is defined as COA, total cost of attendance, minus grants and scholarships only. So the total in grants and scholarships, 38 plus 14, 48.52. 87 minus 52 equals 35. So that's how you can determine what your net cost will be. Can you bring the net cost down even further? Yes, you can with federal student loans. Um, Tulane packages loans in their financial aid award. Most colleges do, but I don't know, 10, 15, 20 of the most selective schools have replaced federal loans with additional institutional grants. So that's a good thing. But you can, I don't know why that skipped ahead. I didn't touch anything. Um, uh, but anyone can still borrow, anyone with need or without need can borrow up to the maximum in federal student loans each year. For a freshman, the maximum is 5,500 per year. For a sophomore, 6,500. For a junior, 7,500. Senior, 7,500. The maximum a student can borrow for 4 undergraduate years of college in federal student loans, $27,000, which I personally don't think is too much to borrow. That is not too much debt to go into. If their first job after college pays 30, 35,000 a year, the student will be able to make those payments and still pay the rent and still have a used car and still be able to go out with friends on weekends. It's manageable. 50, 60, $70,000 in undergraduate debt. Now that's not going to be manageable, but 27, 30, that's manageable. Okay. Really quick, so I can leave plenty of time for Q&A. What is merit aid? Merit aid is non-need based aid that many colleges use as an enrollment tool to attract all of you full pay families, and as well as some of the not full pay families who are the strongest applicants, and maybe that school hasn't met full need and they want to meet full need with a little bit more merit. Who gets merit? Well, it isn't just straight A students. There's a misconception out there that you have to be like a straight A student. Um, no, high grades and test scores, high test scores are great, but also they're looking for applicants who have demonstrated strong leadership. They're looking for performing artists because uh, performing artists make the campus rich and vital for the rest of the students through singing groups and theater and dance. So performing artists can be in line to get merit aid. Athletes at D3 schools. D3 schools are not allowed to give athletic scholarships, but boy, do they have athletic teams that they have to fill. So if you're a good student and a really good athlete, you'd be very much in line for merit aid at D3 schools. And a lot of D3 schools are strong in merit aid. Colleges want geographic diversity. They want to be able to say, we have admitted students from 50 states. Well, if you're applying from Wyoming or Alaska, you might be in line for some merit aid. I know I'm, based in California. California is a really good recruitment target for a lot of schools because they know the UCs, the University of California campuses are impossible to get into and not cheap if you do get in. So California kids are kind of ripe for the picking. So you throw a merit aid scholarship that brings the total cost down to just a little bit more than what a UC in California would cost, and families are going for it. So geographic diversity, essentially any institutional goal that a college has to meet. There are two bassoon players are graduating. If you're a strong bassoon player, you may get merit aid. Um, lots of students can be in the running for merit aid. Um, a question that I'm asked all the time, and it may be one of the biggest myths out there, that you have to apply, you have to submit to FAFSA to apply for merit aid. Not true. Last year and this year, I know of two schools where that's true. There may be more. I mean, I haven't checked with 2,400, 4-year institutions, but uh, for the most part, merit aid is an applicant is considered for merit aid simply by submitting the college application. Why? Because they want full pay families to apply, and they want to give full pay families merit aid so they enroll. And if they threw a lot of hoops in your way, you're not going to apply if you have to fill out the financial aid forms. So the two schools I know about are Virginia Tech and Fordham. And Fordham will award merit aid even without the FAFSA, but kind of strangely requires the FAFSA to disperse the aid prior to the students enrolling in August. So you can get awarded that merit aid, but make sure you get the FAFSA in to collect it. Here's a sample, a very small sample of schools generous with merit aid. Um, uh, you see these are very high averages, annual averages, but you can't just look at the average annual award. You have to look at the percent of non-need undergraduates, and that's what that second column is, the percent receiving aid. So Swarthmore, I think, is at the top of our list with the highest average annual merit aid award, but like 3% of their undergraduates get merit. So they're just a handful of merit awards. Most students are not getting it. So make sure not only is it a nice fat average, 15, 20, 25,000 a year or more, and merit awards are renewable for all 4 years. Need-based aid awards are not. Also make sure that 50, 60, 70, 80% of non-need undergraduates are receiving merit. And then if your student is a strong applicant, they're probably going to get it. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare this resource, and then we'll get into Q&A. So let me stop sharing for a moment. Let me go here, and then I'm going to reshare. Very proud of myself being able to do this. Okay. I think you see our website, Big J Educational Consulting. Diana, can you confirm that? Great. Just click on resources. It takes you to our resource page. We have 7 really great charts. The one we're going to quickly look at today is domestic, undergraduate, need-based, and merit aid. Click on this button, says interactive chart. And there you go. We've got 475 colleges, something like that, listed alphabetically. The things that you want to know about: total cost of attendance, in-state for the publics, out-of-state for the publics and privates, full-time undergrads. Look at this, average percent of need met for all undergraduates. You just click on that header and it automatically resorts the chart for the 50 schools that meet 100% of need. And then if you click through, you'll get to the next that meet 99, 97, 96. So if you're a family with moderate to substantial need, this is where you can find the schools that are generous with need. Now, I'm going to reset. If you're a family that is looking for merit aid because you don't have much need, but you need some help paying for college, just click on that header, average merit aid award, and you see all of these big numbers. There you go. Swarthmore, 62,000 average award. 3% of their non-need undergraduates get merit. So your child is not going to get merit at Swarthmore. But boy, could they at Bennington, Beloit, Knox, Albion, et cetera, et cetera. So this is how to find colleges that are generous with merit aid. There are lots of other cool things about this chart. You can sort by smaller groups of institutions. You can sort by state, by region. But we're not going to spend any more time on the chart today. Um, and I think the only other thing I want to show you is how to reach me, if you'd like. Uh, da 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 da. Okay, that is my contact information if you have financial aid questions. So I was going to add a cool QR code so you could photograph it, and I just didn't have the time to do it. But just take a screenshot of this, and that's how to reach me. Okay, I think we can. I'm going to stop sharing now. Um, Thank you all very much for your patience. I hope your heads are not about to explode. And Diana, I'm ready to take
Okay.
all questions.
My first question is,